中島さんは今何をおっしゃいと言いますか。あなた遅いです。
Next movie is Fed Up. This is a film about the food processing industry and how they've injected huge amounts of sugar into the United States food supply and the food supply around the world, because this is a global epidemic of liver disease and other internal organ diseases brought on by the injection of sugar to replace the removal of saturated hydrates in or fatty acids or fat in the food processing industry. So when they removed the fat, the flavor went down and they had to inject sugar. Sugar of all types, doesn't matter what type it is, but sugar of all types, which has disguised names by the way, if you read the packaging, is bad for you in large quantities. So this story it's well researched. The material is there for anybody to read. It shows the lengths that the capitalists in the food industry will go to protect their way of doing things, even though it could wipe out millions of people from disease. And it's working up. I mean, there's a reason why we now have children under the age of 20 dying of heart disease, dying of heart attacks, suffering from severe strokes. It's because the body's chemistry has to process this internal sugar intake, and it turns it into fat, which is stored in the various organs of the body. And just because you're thin doesn't mean you're in good health, because the reason why you're fat is because it's the development of fat cells in your younger days when you're a little kid. When you reach puberty, whatever fat cells you have developed as a little kid stay with you, but fat cells are like sacs. Fat is injected into them so that they never go away. Whatever fat cells you had when you were a child, you're going to maintain throughout the rest of your life. By controlling your fat intake, you shrink the cells, but you never get rid of them, so that you will constantly have big people throughout the world, but they could be in good shape if they wasn't for the fact that the food sources that we're eating now, the reprocessed food that people are buying, are filled with sugar, which the body turns into fat. So that even though you have a thin person and a fat person, the internal organs are going to be the same, have the same deterioration, have the same diseases, have the same fat levels, which lead to death. The only difference with fat people is their fat is also stored in their muscle tissue, whereas thin people, it doesn't happen. But as I said before, the internal organs continue to be just as destructive in all sizes of people. And this documentary, Fed Up, is about the struggle of people and institutions who know better, fighting against these companies who are trying to protect their profits, trying to protect their income from change, from being forced to change. It's an excellent documentary. If you love your family, if you love your children, you need to watch this film. This is a film that, Fed Up is a film that should be required in every single school, and that everybody should be watching. It should be law that you watch this film. And it also outlines the manipulation of those who know, like President Obama's wife, who started this program to cut back on the industry's amount of sugar they're putting into the food, and it shows perfectly how the food industry got in there with her and slowly manipulated her into concentrating only on exercise, which blames the person. This movie identifies the fact that just because you're fat, it is not your fault. It is not due to you not doing exercises all the time. Whereas Mrs. Obama's campaign was hijacked by the capitalist food industry to concentrate on blaming the victim and having them do exercises to get well again and be healthy, when in actuality it's these huge amounts of sugars that are being put into food. For instance, if you go to your cupboard, you go get some vegetable sauce, can of pop, bottle of juice, pasta sauce, and just look up the sugar levels on those. Here's the shocking part. You're going to find it says nothing in the percentage column. Nothing. There is actually percentage. It's something like 150% to 200%. Anyway, if this film does not motivate you into researching more and doing something about this massive sugar poisoning of the food supply, creating these epidemics of death and disease throughout our nations, then you just miss the point totally. This is a film I'm not just going to recommend this film. I'm going to say that you should, if you love yourself and you love your family and you love your friends, you should see this film, because it is one of the critical films of the 21st century.